been with DCG about 6 years now. I started as a developer. I'm now a principal architect and team lead. We provide services for our customers mainly in the form of Dynamics, but we also have other practices in Azure, security, infrastructure, and support as well. We also have the innovation lab that I'm over that is working on making products for developers and for citizen developers to make life easy in the business world and solve their problems in a way that makes it so they can help themselves. And I'm going to show a little bit of that later on in this presentation. Before DCG, my career experience is a little bit different. I did not grow up a developer. I'm going from the bottom up. Right out of college, my mother is actually a school principal for 30 years. She just retired last year. And since I've always been around teaching, I decided I wanted to give back to the community and do that. So I started as a teacher teaching science to middle school, which is about 13, 14-year-olds. Had a great time doing that for several years. I moved on into supply chain. I worked for a pasta company called American Italian Pasta Company. I did their forecasting and demand planning. I then moved on into their supply planning and capacity planning, so master scheduling, things like that. Also planned their commodities, so buying the durum wheat for the pasta production. Also been in the pork business. I was inventory and warehouse optimization there, so managing freezers and refrigerated foods for meats and poultry. And then scheduling, planning, transportation management, trucks. We actually did large equipment leasing for farmers in the Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa area here. So our Midwest. So think the wheat and corn belt here. So I didn't come from IT, so I've been creating solutions in the what I call the real world for many years now, and that's kind of driven me into this career path because I've always loved to solve those problems, and I like solving it at the pain point, at the point of the problem. So I think it gives me a little bit of a unique vision, just knowing how these things are applied and how we can better service the customer at the end user level. Just to tell you a little bit about Dynamic Consultants Group, we are a global Microsoft partner. We have offices around the world. We are partner-focused consultant practice. We work with our own customers as well as with larger firms to help bring enterprise solutions to larger customers as well. We've had 500 CRM and ERP implementations, 70 million in partner generated revenue, and partners across North America, Europe, and Africa. Onshore and nearshore resources. So we have obviously onshore resources, and we have teams in Portugal, Britain, as well as in the Pakistan, India area. 50 NORAM, EMEA partnerships, full stack development. Like I mentioned before, we have several practices in ERP and Dynamics, Power Apps, Power BI, Azure infrastructure, Azure security, and then targeted support as well. Offices, California, Missouri, Texas, Belgrade, Hyderabad. EMEA is coming soon. Hopefully we'll get that up and running this year as a goal of ours. So that is the Dynamic Consultants Group. I also want to give a quick plug to the PowerLearn Academy. This is a career change program. So I mentioned before, I wasn't in IT. I didn't grow up a developer. So we want to offer people easy entry into the IT space, in the development space. You don't have to have a degree in computer science in order to be successful. As a matter of fact, some of the best leaders that we have in our company didn't come from an IT background. They were concrete layers, they were teachers, they were logistics professionals that just saw the need to solve problems and then ended up liking what they were doing in the IT space, working with their IT teams, and just moved into this space here. So the Power Learn Academy does exactly that. It takes anyone that has an interest and it has that shows ability to pick up these skills. We focus with them on Microsoft technologies. It's a 16-week boot camp. We give them real world labs that we've experienced in real life, and they're taught by the top leaders in our organization. At the end, we ask them to take exams to get their Microsoft certifications. And then we have other opportunities for staffing and hiring after that. So if they make it through the program, if they graduate and they've shown the willingness to struggle through a 16-week boot camp style program, we do either offer them a position or we help them find a position. So stop the emails already is the topic of this talk today. So everyone that's using D365, they want alerts. It's key to increasing adoption. But how do we want to accomplish this? Thinking back before I was in Dynamic Consultants Group, everyone wanted an email. Whenever something happened, whenever they were getting called to action, they wanted that email. But what most of the time happens when we have email alerts going out left and right, people create folders, people drop them into drop rules into Outlook, and they never see them. So what's the best way to notify, keep people up to date, drive the adoption, and drive action on the things that we are alerting them to? So we'll talk a little bit today about different channels that we can use to drive that action and keep people up to speed. Things like SharePoint, third-party components, and other customizations. So what are some common things you want to be notified with? A new lead comes in. We'll take that scenario later. Opportunity was one. Critical customer service case is logged. Your best customer is just has the system down. What do we do? Work order escalations, inventory on hand has reached a critical level. We're out of a raw material and the line's going to stop. The production line is going to stop. These are all important things to know. In the past, we've always defaulted to email, but there's several issues there. In fact, studies show that people just aren't reading them. The open rates on emails are on a sharp decline. Over 80% of the emails inside an organization go unopened, and emails get lost in the noise. I recall in my supply chain days, I was getting over 100 emails a day, sometimes 200. So when these alerts get lost in the shuffle, they lose their effectiveness, and they're not driving the behavior that we want them. So email, if you think about it, is more of a, we want you to know about something. We want you to know something's happening. It's not a call to action. How do we drive that action going forward? So best practices to consider when choosing a notification pattern. Generally, don't send in bulk. If there's probably other ways that we can accomplish that kind of notification. We want to keep them professional, and we want to watch the frequency. Again, we don't want to bombard people. The more we get, we can overload, and it just gets lost in the shuffle. Keeping them professional. One thing to consider is keeping them positive. Asking questions as opposed to, you haven't logged your time today. Maybe it's more of a, hey, have you logged in to log your time today? Sometimes just the way the message is formed can drive different types of behavior, certainly drive different reactions, and drive them where we want them to go is the goal. How important is this notification? I'm going to talk about this in just a second. We talked about communication paths and what is their temperature, right? So we talk about email. Email is the cold path. It's the cold method. It's not frequently checked. People aren't constantly looking at their emails when they're deep into their jobs and trying to get things done. And then we think about IMs. those are a warm path, right? Those are things that people are monitoring regularly. They have their phones are buzzing, their computers are dinging left and right. So they see those more proactively. And then the hot path would be a direct text message, as an example, where you're actually using the user's device that's on their bodies 100% of the time for the day, usually, to get them to see this and drive action there. And is this just an alert, or do I need to direct somebody to act? And we'll see some of the differences in these in alert patterns in the demo. That, sometimes we just want to know something. Sometimes we need to actually have them on the spot make a decision. Just thinking about that packaging example I brought up earlier. If we're out of packaging, what do we do? Do we stop the line, or do we change the schedule and keep the production line running? And then make them direct and personalized. If it's possible to use data from your systems, your Active Directory, to call them by name, those kinds of things, just like the professionality and the question. If they have a warm feeling to the alert, you're going to get more attention to it. And then allow users to control their notification settings. There's easy ways I know in Dynamics and several other systems as well, to set up subscriptions. And some people want to subscribe to certain things, and know everything that's going on in that, with text messages, with Teams messages. They want to be bombarded. Some people don't want that at all. And it's always good to give your users some level of control over what notifications they're getting, what frequency they're coming in, and what types of actions that they can perform from them. Our company is using notifications. So we want to know, alerts to something that is occurring, alert something is about to occur. So, hey, your inventory is running low. You need to act. Driving traffic to social or web funnel. That's another topic that I didn't cover yet. So we're not talking about just internally to your operations, to your company. It could also be customers. You're trying to drive to certain social medias, or ads, or other types of company marketing. Promotion of products and services. Increasing the engagement level of your users. So again, this is where I'm trying to drive home, is we want people interacting with our systems. We spend lots of time developing these to make them smooth, make their jobs easy, to make each step as smooth as possible. So we want to drive the adoption of all the work we do to solve their problems. An event or meeting notifications. So I'm sure you received several for this event here, and then to setting expectations for the event to come. I know Southwest Airlines here always sends me a text about what to expect at the airport, because it's an ever-changing environment post-COVID these days. So that's an example of setting expectations. You're not done yet. So maybe you have someone who's started to fill out an application, or started to fill out a web form for that your company uses to get leads. If that's the case, if they're haven't hit the submit button, or they haven't filled out all that information, those can just push it over the edge to get those customers to come in, those leads to come in and complete those forms. And then proactive suggestions. What's the next action? Should you schedule a follow-up? Do you need to log your activity? Have you put in your time for today? Did you make a follow-up appointment? The next best action is another type. So types of notifications to consider. Push notifications. That's one we'll demo today through Power Apps. Teams messages with cards. Slack is another one that we can interact with. We're not going to show that today. It's just not quite as easy to work with as Teams, not being in the Microsoft family, but it is possible. And then SSMS and MMS. with your phones. So these are what we'll talk about in just a moment. So I'm going to get my screen set up here. Power Apps in Dynamics. Okay. I'm actually going to be also showing you some of the interactivity on the phone, so you can see my lovely children here. But I'm gonna pull that off just for a second. We'll pull that back in when we need it. So right now I'm showing Dynamics, and I have 5 leads set up. And the scenario we're going to talk about is really the lead comes in, um, it gets assigned, and we need someone to take action on it. Now that's a very common sales pattern, but I'd like to keep an open mind here. It really has implications or applications across many business processes, like we've already talked about. And I'll kind of play along and play pretend that we're using different processes throughout the demo. But for the first one, we'll just do the lead assignment. So if I come in here, let's see, I'll pick Thomas Jefferson. I'm going to assign that to myself. My name is Volkner. I'm going to assign that. And as the hamsters run in the background, and we'll take a look at the hamsters later, so they're spinning their wheels, I'm going to get some notifications. There's one. The hamsters are a little slow today. Oh, I know why too. I'm on Do Not Disturb. So as you can see, I have a Teams message as well. And as you can see, as it came up here, I have a text message. So let's take a look at all these. The first example was the Teams. So as you can see here, when I assign that to myself, there's a flow in the background that we can look at. We'll dive into a little bit later. But we were able to create a Power Automate message. And here it gives us information, the phone number, the email. I can even click here to view the lead, and it will take me right to it. And I can see all the information on there that I would need to qualify this lead or take the next step action. I can also do it directly from my Teams app. So right now I have options here, qualify or disqualify. And in that action, I can go ahead and qualify it, create a comment. And those hamsters will run again as the response is sent to the app. They are running slow today. There we go. Finally came through. Lead qualified. So now if I go back to my Dynamics, it shows me here that my lead is qualified and has been moved on to, has been converted to an account and opportunity. So as we look at this, this could be driving any action. Let me just take this one up here. These could drive any action with these cards. So this could be, just think if you're in a logistics company and your truck is there, but your product isn't ready yet. Do you want to hold the truck, or do you want the truck to leave without the product and short your customer? There's a lot of different behaviors you could drive here. We could add another button for create an appointment, create a follow-up phone call with the lead. The sky is the limit on the options we have with driving the behavior we want for the next best action. So the next one I'll show you is, so if I pull out of here, and I will assign this one to myself. Theodore Roosevelt coming in to my screen. There we go. My screen mirroring stopped for just a moment. So the push notification, as you can see on the screen, if you have a Power Apps app installed, you can receive push notifications from it. I'm going to open this. You can see it opens my app. It finds the lead, and it drops me right inside. Now this is a Canvas app, and this is really where the exciting part is, because from here you can do just about anything. I was dropped in on the last presentation, and was seeing some really impressive things we could do with with Canvas apps. This from here, this could be a whole sequence of decisions, of analytics that you could present to your users and drive the next best action right on the screen for them, so they never have to actually log in. So the beauty of this is you don't have to be sitting at your desk to make decisions and to solve problems. So I just want to disqualify this one on my screen right here and say, nope, that one's not quite what I wanted. So I have a success there. And I can come back, and Theodore has been removed from my leads list. And then looking back into the system, we see that we've lost this this disqualified lead for Theodore Roosevelt. And then next, we're going to take the hot path, which is text messaging. This is when we want to say, hey, something is an emergency. Let's say you have your largest customers production down. We need you to assign a tech to follow up with them immediately and start diving into the issues. So that's something I need right now, not in 10 minutes, not when you get time, right now. So I'll assign that. And that was George Washington. There's a push notification there. And there's my text message. So we're actually using a service called Twilio. And I'll show you the connector for that shortly. But you can see here, sent from your Twilio trial, George Washington. It gives me a little synopsis of the topic there. And you can see what's nice here is that the email and the phone are actually interactive. I could actually call him. I could send him a text message straight from here, or I could email him a message straight from here. So you can see here they have the qualify lead and the disqualify lead. These long URLs, there are ways to shorten those and to make a little bit of a vanity that would make more sense. Just for the sake of demo, I didn't do that, and I also wanted you to observe some things about the URL itself. So just keep in mind that that's an option. And when we talked about, keep them professional, keep them light, it's also good to format them, so it's a little better than this. But I did want to show the actual URLs to you today. And these URLs are webhooks into a Power Automate flow. And if I just want to point your attention to the end, so when we send this text notification, we also send in the lead ID from Dynamics, and then the action for the that we want to apply to this. So this was the qualify. You can see here we have the qualify action. And then we have the source, which is the text message, which also drives some of the behavior in the background as well. And on the bottom, same thing here. We have the same lead ID. The action is going to be disqualified with the same source as text. And if I select one of these, I'm going to be positive today, and I'm going to select the qualify lead. And once I've done that, the hamsters will run in the background again. And I should get a response that says, yep, we have qualified the lead. And coming back into Dynamics, we see a qualified lead. So let me shut down the phone screen sharing. We'll be done with that. Okay. So let's dive in a little bit to how this works. One of the beautiful things of how this works is its simplicity. I'm 100% on board with the Microsoft mantra of citizen development. Like I said, I didn't come from IT, so wishing I had these tools earlier in my career than we had. But it really is making Power Apps is really making this easy to accomplish. And I will let me pull that over here. So to accomplish this, there's actually only 3 flows, and a Canvas app. So I'll take you through some of those items. Let's see. Let's start with this one. So this is what happens in the system. So when I went and I assigned those leads to myself, we get a trigger here with leads, and if I open up even further, the only will run if the owner ID changes. So on assign, we get the user, and we get the lead, and then we do some things. So I put all of this in one flow for ease of use. You probably want to break it out into 3, but we could take a look at each of these paths and how they work in Power Automate. And so you can see here, we can totally customize the message. This one here is the Twilio connector. You do have to have a Twilio account for this. I'm just working off of a trial. We grab the mobile number off of the user, and then we drop the lead information inside of the text message. And again, when we'll look at the webhook here shortly, but you can pull the webhook URL for the flow, and we can drop that in here for now. Again, you could use some transformation, some URL transformation or redirects, depending on what you have access to. And we just drop that lead ID in there like I showed you on the text message. So those are live links when they come through. The middle one is the flow option. So again, when we have in option 1 and option 2, that's how we showed the card choices. We can also add more if we want to, as many, I think, as we want. So that's always an option. We want to give multiple paths. We could even call and respond back and forth with a complex decision tree if we wanted to, kind of like the bot technology. We could drive that right through Flow as well. We specify the recipient, and again, we drop in here the information that we'd like. And then we do have the lead ID here, so we want to click on that. Now, the push notification from Power Apps is a little bit different, but a little bit more complicated because there is some JSON involved to sending it in. So we send the message, and we could send anything in that push notification that we'd like, something that hopefully would drive them to click on it, something catches their attention. And then we send in parameters. So in this case, I don't know if you noticed, and maybe I'll show it again here in a second. When we clicked on that push notification, I was able to send the user directly to the lead I wanted, and not just to the main screen. And this is how we accomplished that. And I'll show you in the Canvas app here shortly how that's consumed. But those are the three setup, and as you can see, there's nothing special about any of this. This is all, I feel like most people could come in here and figure this out pretty easily. And then switch for the I didn't go through this. So this is the actions after the selected option. So when I selected qualify or disqualify from my Teams message, we have to tell it to do something. So we qualify, we perform an action. We set up a custom action just to go make the qualification. But again, this could be anything. This could be calling out to another service. This could be notifying someone else. This could be driving your scheduling system, your production line, your truck planning, and load planning as well. So that's the initiation of it. So then we have to be able to consume it. So on the Power Apps side, we get we have a Power Apps trigger, which sends in the lead ID and the action we wanted, which would be either qualify or disqualify in our demo's case. So as you can see here, it's a very simple input. So we say, what was the action that we were requesting? And then in the case of qualify, we just perform that unbound action. I think well, this is a long one, I forgot about that. But somewhere down here, yep, we pass in the lead ID so it knows which record to qualify. And it's the same exact thing for the disqualify, just using the disqualify action. And then not lastly, but the Twilio, which is where we're using the URLs to drive the next action. Again, this is where we would get that URL that we would need to hit in order to start this flow. And we're able to put in the parameters along with that. So once we get those parameters, we see we have the post from the webhook. So all the things that we sent in from that URL for those parameters I showed you, we set those variables and we use those to retrieve the lead, retrieve the user, and then we perform whatever action that was selected in that parameter. So if they selected the qualify action, we send it in down this path. So we actually, same thing here, we do the qualify lead action. We get the qualified lead and we send a message back that says, hey, this is qualified. You've successfully done that. And it's the exact same here, just on the different action for the disqualify. And so this is the Canvas app that I was showing on the phone. So my phone mirror screen. You can see here, this is just a list of open leads that we started with. I do want to show you one thing on the timer. So the timer is here so the flows can finish running, and then it has to load before it can consume those variables we sent in. Let me go to advanced, and it is the on start. So this is really the only code, only Power Apps code that we write, and it's one line. And it's very simple. So we send in that that parameter of forward to detail true, and then initial load complete is what we set once the Canvas app is fully loaded, and that way we can start driving behavior. If you don't let it load completely and try and navigate, it just doesn't ever make it to that point. It's not receiving inputs, so it's done. That's how that is done. So that drives us directly to to the leads that we want, the lead detail screen, which is the one that we looked at previously. And again, we have a qualify and disqualify button here, but keep an open mind. We could say that, you know, set follow-up appointment, send email, send text message. We could send messages about sending messages even. So we could have any action driven here. And again, with Canvas apps, we can go as deep as we like. As far as complexity and driving the behavior. And then this is just the lead qualifications success page. So once we selected that button and the action is successfully performed, we want to show feedback there in the home button. So again, to wrap, the mission here is again to keep people engaged, to alert people, alert your team, to alert your customers, to alert needed parties of actions needed. And it's also there to give you your next step, your next best actions, your next best choices. And as we know, the email is not the way to go. We have other options, and Power Apps has just done, I believe, an excellent job of making this not only available, but also very easy to implement by anyone in an organization. I will open up to questions, Raz, if you like.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Excellent. So we do have a few questions here. So we have a question by Martin who's asking, how do you determine in the trigger flow which Canvas app is open from the notification?
Let me see. Which one is that one? I believe. Where is it? Did I close it? There we go. This is what I wanted. I just have this one too wide open. Okay. That's a good question. I don't recall how it does that. Let me take that down and I can get that back to you.
That's great, Patrick. Yes, so feel free to take that offline. There's been a huge round of applause for you, by the way, Patrick. I think you did a really a great segue between model-driven apps and Canvas apps you've covered today. So it's a great segue for tomorrow's track, which is focused purely on model-driven apps. So I think you've really, addressed a really good use case here that I think people will really apply as a practical use case in most of their implementations. So there's been a huge round of applause. So thank you so much, Patrick, for sharing that use case here.